Welcome to All About Videography. My name is Joy Levy, and today we will go over the Godox UL60. If you didn't hear about the Godox UL60, it is a fanless light. Now, why do you need a fanless light when Godox makes lights with a very quiet fan? The UL60 is a light for special applications. Let's say you film inside a room that is acoustically treated when floor noise or other noises that usually appears in a regular environments are just not there. A light that has a fan could be a problem. So if you want a light that would not be a problem in any environment, this is the light for you. Regarding power output, it is 60 watts, which is comparable to the ML60. The size difference between the two is enormous, and the reason for that is a big heatsink and giant case for better dissipations. At this point in technology, there's no way to go around it. It has to be a giant heatsink for the light not to overheat without a fan. Now, to my knowledge, there's no small light with a minimum of 60 watts that will not overheat in a full brightness. For example, on the ML60, you can turn off the fan, but you are limited to 50% output. With that said, size is something to consider. Now, just that you know, I'm not trying to discourage you from getting the UL60. On the contrary, I think it is a great light to add to your toolbox if you are a professional videographer, but you do need to know the facts about the UL60. Let's talk specs. It is AC power and V-mount battery. Call temperature is 5600K plus 300K. They are pretty much telling you there is a chance that some lights could fluctuate with the color temperature. 100% brightness from 1 meter is 3100 lux. My measurement showed 3600 lux with a reflector. CRI is 96 and TLCI is 97, which are excellent measurements. Now, don't worry about the scientific measurements. At this point, all the big boys light companies have great color LED. Even if you hear about a little shift of magenta or green, you will not notice it. I never notice it. I never noticed any color shifting with the Godox recent models. Now, consider subscribing to this channel if you want to see a review from full-time videographer's perspective. I've been a professional videographer for nearly 17 years, and the products I review on this channel were tested and will be tested during work. So the UL60 brightness adjustment is from 0% to 100%, but it is not accurate. And what I mean by that, 10% intensity is not actually 10% of the total intensity of the light. None of the lights that I've tested are correct. What I can confirm is that on each click of the dial, the intensity increases from 1% to 100%. So the UL60 has 32 channels and 16 groups and 8 effects. The weight is 2.38 kilograms, which are 5.24 pounds. It is not a lightweight light. The SL60 weight, for example, is 3.55 pounds, which is 1.61 kilogram. You can also see the size difference between the SL60 to the UL60. Next, the UL60 doesn't come with a case, just a box. It is a bummer, but not the end of the world. In the box, you will find the light itself, a reflector, a control box, a 16-feet power cable that goes from the wall to the controller, an 11-feet 4-pin power cable that goes from the controller to the light. Now, a remote control is optional, but it is not included. But you can control the UL60 with the Godox app. Now, let's talk about the light itself. It is all metal for the most part. The only part that is plastic is the handle grip. It has a massive yoke with a semi-rosette locking mechanism. Now, let me explain what a semi-rosette locking mechanism is. A rosette locking mechanism has 2 gears that lock each other in contact. To release it, you have to open the knob enough for the gears to release. Now, the Godox locking mechanism has a rigid rubbery washer in between the gears, so the gears are actually locking the washer rather than each other. The advantage is that it does not take much to release the knob to adjust the light position. It's also strong enough to hold the UL60 with any size softbox. Another thing to mention is that the yoke can do a complete 360 degrees turn, and that means you can also hang it from the ceiling and keep it in the proper orientation. On the back of the light, you will find a grip handle to help you tilt the light and a 4-pin XLR power plug. In the front, we have a comfortable quick release button like all the new generation Godox lights, and there is also a CB protective cover. But what you will notice the most is the heat dissipation vents. It's all over the light to keep the UL60 from overheating. The vents are around the COB LED on the top, bottom, and even on the back of the light. And there are actually pretty big vents. Next, we have the controller. The controller case is just over 8 inches high and 4.5 inches wide. It is made of plastic. It doesn't have a fan built in, but it does get hot to the touch when the intensity is 100% after some time. But you can always use the application to adjust the light intensity. Now let's go over the controller from top to bottom. We have a power output and hanging cable. The cable stays in one position, unlike the VL series that goes inside the controller when it's not in use. On the front, we have a display, power button, menu button, FX button, DMX button, a dial, and a set button in the middle of the dial. At the bottom of the controller, we have DMX output port, power input, and a DMX in port. Now, I'm not familiar with the power input plug. I'm unsure what type of plug it is, but it is very secure to the light. To lock the cable, you will turn the plug after inserting it into the power port. To unplug it, you must press the release tab and turn it counterclockwise. On the back of the controller, we have the V-mount battery plate and a battery release button. I don't have any indication as to how long the light can stay on with a battery since I don't have one. Please accept my apology. Now let's go over the display. The display is bright enough. On the display, you will see the wireless control symbol, Bluetooth symbol, light brightness percentage, channel, and group. Another thing you will see is the overheat temperature symbol coming up if the light is overheating. I couldn't get it to overheat during a 3 hours gig. I also left it overnight with a small softbox on 100% and it didn't overheat. To get the overheat symbol to flash, I had to unplug the power cable from the light. Let's go over the buttons. We have the power button to power up the light. Just one click on the power button. Second button is the menu where you can change the group and channels. The ID. Now the ID is meant to work with different remotes. If you have a remote that can change the ID, you can pair it with the UL60 by matching the same ID number. Also in the menu there is Bluetooth, but there is no way to turn off or to reset. Next is the FX. There are 8 effects: Flash 1, Flash 2, Flash 3, Storm 1, Storm 2, Storm 3, TV, and Broken Bulb. Now on the display you will not see the actual effects name. All you see is the effects numbers. Now when you press the FX button, it will be on the off position. To go through the effects, turn the dial clockwise. To turn off the effects, dial it to the off. Now there is no other way to turn off the effects, regardless of whether you click on the DMX button or the menu button. The only way is actually dial to off position. The next button is the DMX, which will let you connect the light to other light in a daisy chain and control each light individually with the DMX board controller. But this is not much for a videographer. You can always use group and channels if you want to control multiple lights. The dial is to increase and decrease the intensity and change the parameters. Last is the set button to select a parameter. Now let's talk about the reflector and the bow and mount. The reflector has a diamond pattern to intensify the light output, but it also makes a hot spot in the middle. Build quality is excellent, and you can see it on the reflector mount. It is very beefy. As far as fit to the light, it is on the loose side, and at first I criticized it, but then I realized that it is actually much better to have a loose fit than a snag fit. Try to release a softbox from a snag fit mount and you'll feel the difficulty. So the UL60 power to weight ratio is not the best, but this is the only way to make a fanless video light. At the time of this video, it goes for $290 on Amazon, and I will put a link in the description. If you get a set of 3, it is under $1,000 and it is a great set. 60 watts is enough if you do interviews in a controlled environment. I use 60 watts lights most of the time, even though I have the VL150 and the VL200. Bottom line, I recommend the UL60 100%. It is a bow and mount video light with a COB chip. The build quality is superb, and it is the quietest video light you will ever find. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel if you want to see reviews from an actual videographer.